Maharashtra now looking at new rules for institutional quarantine for passengers coming in from what they are now classifying as ultra-risk countries. Vishnu Shom joining us at this point. Vishnu, lots being talked about or being considered in Maharashtra. Are these final yet? What do we know?
No, it's not final, but we are told it's going to be final in the next little while, perhaps in the next few minutes. Maharashtra has been taking its own time back and forth in deciding these, but this is from the MCGM, the Municipality Commissioner. And essentially what they are saying is that they are having a new category called ultra-risk nations. These are South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and Eswatini. It's southern African countries essentially, and their passengers from these countries are in the ultra-risk category. They will face institutional quarantine for when they arrive in India, institutional quarantine for 7 days. Mm-hmm. However, what is important is that they have now gone back on what they had said earlier, assuming that these are actually carried out, whereby passengers from the United Kingdom and Europe and other countries which have been deemed at risk by the centre, they will no longer need to do institutional quarantine as was earlier the case. So basically that part of it, they will comply with what the centre is doing. What has the centre said? In the centre's guidelines, they've said that passengers from at-risk countries, that's more than 14 nations actually, including the UK and most European countries, Singapore, Bangladesh, Israel, they would have to they would not have to do institutional quarantine, is what the centre had said. Everybody from these countries needs to do an RT-PCR test, wait for that result. If you're negative, then they can carry on to their destination. And at their destination, they need to be under home quarantine. So Maharashtra is doing that as well. However, they've got this one additional category, as I mentioned to you, for those who are coming in from southern African countries. But what is significant over here is that they have also suggested that domestic passengers who are arriving into Maharashtra have to be double vaccinated or RT-PCR negative in a test carried out within 72 hours before boarding. Very significantly, passengers crossing the interstate border by road shall carry a negative RT-PCR report done within 72 hours of crossing. If they don't have it, they could be screened for an RT-PCR test or antigen. Now, there are thousands of trucks and vehicles which enter Maharashtra from various states every hour. And therefore, how is this actually going to be implemented as far as interstate border crossings are concerned? We don't know. There is another category. In some circumstances, RT-PCR shall be allowed for domestic passengers at Mumbai airport upon arrival. Screening of passengers at railway stations and bus depots shall be done. If a passenger is found symptomatic, testing shall be done and COVID protocols shall be followed. So screening of passengers would, I would assume, mean a simple temperature test, right, at train stations. And if somebody is sick, again, implementing this is going to be difficult because, as you know, thousands would be arriving not just every hour, but in periods less than that period of time in a state as large as Maharashtra, in a city, for example, as large as Mumbai, not to mention the other cities. So these guidelines, and this has been put in by the Municipality Commissioner. It's addressed to the Chief Secretary of the state. It's going to be formalized soon. Some of this is going to be very difficult to implement. Ankita.